Torat, the Shiurim al pi pshat remes drush soid miniget meidani. Pshat is pashat thanking the Eibusher for the fact that he gives a person life, and pi drush, pi remes is the remes tchis that the person waking up in the morning is merames tchis amesin, and that's Rabbi Munasecha that every morning a person wakes up, it's mechazik is a mun tchis amesin. Then the Chelik Hadrush is the fact that a person should be loyal, that the Eibusher doesn't keep the neshama hagam, that we have some debts towards him. And the Seid is the marker from Anat Shtam, waking up in the morning. That it's from Malchus, the way it's miyuchid with Yisayid. What's the bir al HaChassidus? So there's like this, Sifir Al. Habir anash apidat chalke apardis. Nefesh ruach neshama chay shuv'tayra. Mevayr Inyona protein. Bir al-Pipshat. Bir al-Pipshat is a very important thing. A person should have thank Hashem for the fact that he's alive. Kovetz is a very important thing, but it's not the Yisoid or the klal of what life is all about. It's a certain aspect in a person's avodah. You have to have a Kovetz to the one that gave you something good. It's not a Indian klali. It's not a klal gadol, which of them is mevusas the entire mitzias of Adam and Avodas Hashem. Al derech zeh the bir apirem is tchias amesim. So first of all, this is mechazik the mun tchias amesim. Also, tchias amesim is not necessarily the yisoid of yisoid of Avodas Hashem, and the chaskas of the mun tchias chizuk in the mun tchias amesim. There's the in of drush to be loyal. It's also a very important thing, not a klal of everything. It's not the invaz b'shteit the mahus v'yid that he's loyal. The guy people that give him pigdainis. It's not the etzem mahus v'yid. Now there is the malchus b'tzmiuchat it is say there's a certain inyan pratim partzuk malyin. Sheik in Chassidus it's in var inyan pratim be'erech haklal gadol shebezeh in the heidah of meidan. Uba teres HaChassidus, which is the chidush b'Torah. So the chidush b'Torah deals with the b'chinas the chid of the inyan. I mean the inyan of meidani. The way it relates to the Etzem of Elokus, we're going to see that I was going to explain that, but here that I was saying the way it relates to the Yichid of a Yid. Every dark, in other words, every dark and Torah nefesh of Torah deals with Yisem Yisapi Pashtus. Chilek HaPshat Sheba Torah deals with the reality, the way we see it at face value, the Pshat of the reality. Drush speaks to more an inner element in reality. Said speaks to Beneget. Said Sheba Torah deals with Inyona the way they are in Atzilis or in Elam HaSayerim. So B'chinas Yichidush B'Torah addresses the B'chinas HaYichid of the Mitzvahs, which is the B'chinas Yichid of a Yid. So Chassidus explains, brings out in of Meida'ani the way it is Mitzad Yichidush B'Torah, which explains Meida'ani the way it is Mitzad addresses the Yichid of Meida'ani. Yichidush B'Va'er is a beer. So Chassidus is Meva'er a beer klali. That means it's something which is kailo, everything, much more broader Inyan, not just the Inyan Pratei thanking the Eibusher for life, Hakaras HaTayv. Or Yitzchaskus, Indian Kloli in Avodas Hashem, and not only that's Indian Kloli, beyond these four brothers, the Kinyanim, but it's the Nekuda Atzm is the etzem of everything. There is an explanation. Where's the Nekuda Atzm Shemedani? Habam Mibchinas HaYichid Shalom. Basim Bas. Abira B'Teres HaChassidus HaMedani. Who Medani Chulu? Who as Cholasi shall say that this is the beer. It's not like there's some Maamar Lahavim Indian Medani. It's not as a Maamar, but it's from the Sirah Friedrich Rebbe, which is by the name. So what steht in Chassidus in the gate of Meidan? Haschalasi shall say that Ayem of Meidan. First thing a Yid does in the morning is Meidan. We're not being madgish now the fact what he's thanking for. The point is not going to get to what he's thanking for. It means that Haschalas Ayem is that a Yid turns to the Eibusher and acknowledges that the Eibusher exists, and he's connected to Elokus. This Meidan we say what's that Gosh Chassidus is madgish that we said before Nitzil Sedaim. I feel it'll be a dime to me. Was bringt es alles? There's a nekuda sakeshet. There's a connection of a yid to the Eibusher, which call atum sheba'ilam einin metamis sameida ani sheyud. And when you get saying a bracha b'shem malchus or limudat Torah, let's say, so a person is in a state of tuma, can nishlan. Wake up in the morning before Nitzil Sedaim, you're not allowed to mention, you're not allowed to shaychus the Torah. So the keshet to lukus, certainly in Yonim the keshet to lukus. So mashas a person is tummy, so he doesn't have that keshet. Mashekim made the ani of a yid. Das kann man sagen, even Yadayim Tmeis. Why? Because Kol HaTum Shebe'elam, they're not metame the Meida'ani of a Yid. Efshe Shia Chazer be'inyan Zeh be'inyan Acher, aval Meida'ani Shalei nishar Tamid B'Shleim. So what's this Mevar B'Digei to Meida'ani? That there's a connection the Yid has with the Eibusher, a certain could have connection, which no Tumah could affect that connection. And it's not shaykh to say that a Yid's in a Matzeh, but he's not a Keli to this connection. To have a connection to Lukus Abasagil, let's say, the Havana Abasagil Lukus, a person has to be Mizbainin. So you have a matzav where you're not the keli yet for his bonus. Your meach is a person's meach is nitma in Zachem was after sein. So then he's not right to be misbeinen in Gdulas Hashem. Where the kesher that a yid has is out of the yiras. So first he has to be miyakir alakus, and then he can have avas Hashem. Meida'ani is a yid has a connection to the Eibush. Mekayim mitzvahs l'moshel. Mitzvahs you cannot be mekayim before until sedayim. When a person is tummy. Meida'ani, there's a certain. The only thing that a yid could do even before miyachiner mishnah doesn't need any achana for it. Miyachiner mishnah say biyadayim tmeis is zagin meida'ani. So what is HaChassidus madgish? That there's a nekudas hakesher of a yid to the Eibush and no tum in the world can be plaguing that. And that nekudas hakesher is meida'ani l'fanach. Is expressed in meida'ani. So here you see, that I was going to touch over. Here you see, HaChassidus explains not meida'ani as the HaChassidus' Pirush of meida'ani is not meida'ani is a yidah for life, not a pratis the gazah. That a person is thanking for the fact that he's alive, or a remes that he is amazing. How meida'ani expresses the nekudas hakesher of a yid to that's so the Chassidus is bir yichida. Chassidus is bir meida'ani. The way meida'ani is, the way meida'ani is yichida shebenefesh. You heard the meaning. Meida'ani is not just thanking the Eibush for life. Meida'ani is that there's a certain nekudas hakesher to the Eibush that even when he's tummy, that kesher is not affected by tummy. And that kesher is always there begoli, not this almost. That kesher is always there begoli. And that's the kesher of B'chinas Eichida. Let me get this mazbuz. Inyan zeh u'mitzad Eichida. This inyan, that there's a kesher of a yid to the Eibush. So maybe you're going to say, v'erzak mitzad Eichida. We see already that it's a beer klali. From these lines, we see already that HaChassidus looks at Meida'ani as a general inyan. There's different ways of understanding a yid's kesher to the Eibush, and there's a certain nekudas hakesher that nothing could affect, nothing could contaminate. Maybe because it's such a chitzenistic kesher, is just thanking the Eibush for life. Therefore, it's there even in Tumah. Where do you see that has to do with Yichida? So them sagt wir in jetzt hat Yichida da. Bedad beginnen selber schon schon Chaya, Shaykh in abgam gam Tumah. Means become is could be a chisarin or they can be contaminated. מצד היחידה שבנשמה, שמיוחדת, תמיד בעצמוס יסברך, אין שייך קוף כאן, ותום אחד לשלום, נישה תמיד בשלמוס. Yeah, the Rebbe says Maamar in the Nekuda. But the Nekuda the Rebbe is saying is, two pratim comes out from the Hemshech Inyona. Number one, you say, let's say a Yid's connection to the Eibushem is at the B'chin of Nefesh. So Nefesh, let's say, is Machshava Dibur Maisa. Ruach is Midas, Nefesh, let's say, is Machshava Dibur Maisa. So in Vazba state, the Kesher of Yita Lekuz is at Machshava Dibur Maisa. So there's a material of person, there's the Levush Machshava Dibur Maisa, and he's miskashed to the Eibushem with that he thinks the Eisi is a Torah, and he does a Maisa mitzvah. A person's Machshava is a mitzvah. A person's Machshava can become tummy. Can become a levush for Inyona Maveva. A person's machshava can be munach in Inyona which are not a lekus, and then it's going to be in a tunu of nifras from a lekus. The machshava can be nitma. And not only mitzad the miskasher, mitzad the yid, which is connecting to the Eibusher. So since the yid is a mitzias, machshava dibur ma'aseh is a distinct thing, which is machshava dibur ma'aseh. Could be a gam, there could be a chisaron. The person has the kesher of yid is the kesher that yid has mitzad this keach haseichot lekus. So in Vaz Bashtet the Kesher, that he understands Dulas Hashem. Seichel is a pratistic mitzvahs. And Seichel has G'darim. One of the G'darim of Seichel is that if you use Seichel for Inyona which Hepech Halakos, it can become Nitma. It can become contaminated. It can become a Ruchel. Because Seichel is a Davar Prati, and every Davar Prati has certain limitations. And in order for it to function well, it has certain time. You have to give it the right, it has to be the right atmosphere in order for it to function well. So if the machshava dibur ma'isa are being munach in Inyona which are heipech hatayv and heipech hakdusha, you'll be metamed machshava dibur ma'isa. And al derech zeh we speak about the dargin alakus that you're connecting with. Mitzad never shochan neshama chaya, they themselves have a tziyur, and since they themselves have a tziyur, so any davar mukbal needs tnoim in order for the mitzvah to be shleimus, and there could be a bgam or a tumah. And it's also in what dargin alakus is it connected with? It's connected. Seichel connects to alakus to be alakus. The way Lakus comes in the tzir of Seichel. Seichel doesn't connect to Lakus, the way the Eibush is mufshit from the tzir of Seichel. The way the Eibush is mufshit from the tzir of Seichel, Seichel verbindet sich nicht mit them. So it's the way Lakus comes back Bala. The way Lakus comes back Bala, the Eibush is eingestellt, the Seder of Welt in a way that Zelu Mazeh Asalikim. There's Kedusha and there's Klipa. And Klipa can be menaged to the Eira Kedusha. The way, the Eira Liki, the way it comes is Mislavish and Elamis. Like that darga, there's a lu'uma, there's zelum asalikim. So there's the same way in the world you have chesed kedusha, there's chesed klipa, and the same way there's seichel kedusha, there's seichel klipa, and the seichel klipa could be menagid and could undermine, could be as a stira to seichel kedusha. Mashenki yichida has no tzir. Yichida is not a mitzias which connects to the Eibusher. There's homo hustis connection to the Eibusher. There's no tzir of a mitzias. It's not a davar prati. It's not a tzir prati. Kol mahusay is one with the Eibishter. So it's not shaykh to say that something should contaminate it. And the Rebbe's mad geshir, that's the word the Rebbe says here in the Pnim. It says, Ava mitzad the Rebbe says two pratim. If you look at the Rebbe's Lashon, Ava mitzad the Yechida sheb'neshama shemiuchedes tamid batzmusi yisbarach. So one word is that Yechida kol mahusay is yichud. It's not shaykh to say that it shouldn't be, this whole mitzvah is the yichud. That's miuchedes tamid. But the Rebbe's mad geshir that miuchedes tamid batzmusi yisbarach. Means, since Yechida has no tzir, so with what is the connection of Yechida to the Eibishter is in the etzim of Elokus. The atzmis of Elokus, not trying to say that there's some mitzias which is a stira to the city. Mitzad Elokus comes in Seichel and Chabad. So if a person's mayach could be nitma, and al derech zeh mitzad the Chabad of Elokus cannot be nesgal in a makom of Chabad the Klippe. So the dargan Elokus where a person is connecting to mitzad Seichel, that dargan Elokus sometimes it can be a nituk of that connection. And calls when a person is in Tumah, he cannot, mitzad the dargam Elokus that is connected to, he cannot access that dargam. Mashegen Yechida, which called Inyona is Yichud with Elokus, has no tzir, and it's Yichud with the Eibishter himself. The Eibishter himself is not shaykh to say that in order for him to be there, there's something which nothing could block the Eibishter. He created everything. And the Eibishter is the one that decided that it should be a mitzvah of Tumah. The Eibishter is not mukder in any definition, it's shaykh to say that there's a certain mode of being that doesn't suit him, that's against him. So any yid, in was for a matzav is all zayin, there's a nekuda that he's connected to the Eibishter, and nothing in the world can take that away. He doesn't need kelim. Adar Chatzar says in time when he gets a kelim serious nefesh. Even a kal shebakalim that lived his whole life, it's a politic gezach, but a kal shebakalim lived his whole life in tumah v'klippe. Whatever he lived, he didn't. But when it comes to Anisayin, to give away his Yiddishkeit, he's ready to give away his whole life. Mesiras nefesh mamash. In order for a person to be ready for Mesiras nefesh, you need a psachana, you need a zbananos, you need a vaida. Doesn't need any achana, any zbananos. From understanding this, it doesn't need any achana. Means it's like a habit by yid. Nothing is mindlem on it. A person has a chveis gehata edel regesh, had avas Hashem in a high eifim. If a person is faltar up and he's megashim his leave, so you can't in 1 second even air avas Hashem again. You have to refine your heart. A person has gehata leib mezuchach or a meich mezuchach. If the meich is mizgashim, so you can't bin rega have havana gdulas Hashem. You're going to have to be mezach your meich and it'll be a whole aveda. Mr. Snevish the yid to the Eibishter, there's no in any situation that yid is. The lowest of the lowest, in the most grave situation. But the berega it's going to deal with whether he should detach him from the Eibishter or not. The question is going to be shmad or not shmad. He's without any hachon, without any cheshbenis, his connection to Lakus is in the extent that he's ready to give everything away for the sake of connection to the Eibishter. On hachon, on his bonus. Why? That target is begilui. It's always there. Nothing could shvach that connection to the Eibishter. Why? Because since first of all, that's mitzad Yechida. Yechida is that the fact that it's connected to Lakus, it's not that there's a mitzias of seichel which connects to the Eibishter, and then seichel is a davar prati which needs you have to nurture it. And it could be different matzavim in seichel. It could be in the more mezuchach, less mezuchach. Yechida has no mitzias. Kol Inyona is a Lakus. And there you're connected to atzmus. Atzmus, there's nothing that's a stira to atzmus. Nothing's a helam to atzmus. There's nothing that could be an opposition. The Eibishter is not defined. So defined things have to be in a certain atmosphere in order for them to be nizgal. Atzmus is beyond any definition. So Mamela is not shaykh to say there should be a matziv where there that connection is not begoli. So that connection is always there, and it's there begoli. Und von dort stammt mit der Ani of a Yid. Mit der Ani is there's a nekuda of a Yid, regardless of where he's holding, fartum and nachtum, yegewaschen and nicht gewaschen, then he's connected to the Eibishter. And nothing can take away that connection. He doesn't have to wash negelwasser, he doesn't have to say, he doesn't have to machen any achonis. He's in bed, he just woke up, he's connected to it. That's what the Chiddush Huh? I'm not saying that. The Poyal Rebbe says that a person, of course, persons are not always aware of it, but I'm saying it's the Poyal, from the fact that when it comes to saying Mesiras Nefesh, it doesn't need to know in order for it to be expressed. Seichel needs to know. Yeah.
What's the connection to the actual Inyona you're saying?
There's no connection. According to this beer, this is a different beer. It's a different. According to what we're saying, it's a different beer Meidani. Pshat explains Meidani. The basic Meidani is a thank you for giving you life. The HaChassidus says Meidani is something you say. It's an Indian Torah. What's Indian Torah? That a person says a certain nusach, Heidat Hashem in the morning, before Natil Sedayim. HaChassidus is Mevayer that expresses the connection to Lukus, that you don't need to wash your hands for it. It's not discussing now what you're thanking about. That's not the point. This is Mevayer different beer. They say why should you guys the same shot when you get to Drush? The Drush is that the person has to learn to be loyal. Why can't you learn from other things? Punkt in this area. Punkt. All the pirushim have to do with what aspect, what's the ikar adgasha medani. According to this beer, it's not about what you're thinking about. It's the etzem fact that a yid wakes up in the morning, he turns to the Eibishter. He's connected. That nekoda medani. That's the beer of HaChassidus medani. We think that a beer of HaChassidus, a Maamar that explains, it's a shtickle, it's a yeah.
There's just a connection. Every mitzvah has a connection.
What do you mean every mitzvah's connection? Not every mitzvah expresses this nekoda. Medani expresses it. Where do you have in every mitzvah bepashtus that is an expression of yichida?
Person on
tefillin.
You're saying
No.
the fact that he's turning to the Eibishter. Every mitzvah he's doing, he's turning to the Eibishter.
No, and not turning to the Eibishter. That even before Tumah, the din of Medani is that even before Netil Sedayim, B'yadayim B'tonafis, a person could say Medani. That nekoda. In a regular mitzvah, he puts on tefillin. Because he was Mekabel, Il Mach Shemayim. So he's meichen himself. He washed his hands, and he became the Eibishter's Eved. He didn't just, a person just woke up, he's not conscious of the fact that he's an Eved yet. He just woke up. That's, Chassidus explains how Medani expresses and reflects the Chiddushim Nefesh. I'm saying reflects the Chiddushim Nefesh. Chassidus is madgish, the Nekoda of Medani, that a Yid's connection to Lakus is even in a state of Tumah. That's what Medani brings up. So that's the beer, and that beer Chassidus is a general, it's a general point. So Chassidus sees a Medani, I'm saying even in Pasha, it's not about the person sleeping in bed and waking up. It's more of a broader Inyan. It's the fact that its connection to Lakus is unlimited and that nothing can contaminate it. It's a Shalei Be'erech broader than the concept of thanking the Eibishter for the fact that we're the Akar Satay for the fact that you're alive. It's a whole different Inyan. It's something that it's a much greater Inyan. The Rebbe says, and the fact that Chassidus sees this Inyan of Medani is because Chassidus sees the Yechidah of Medani. And the Yechidus is mitzad the Yechidah Sheba Nefesh. Mitzad that Inyan, you have this nekuda that no tumah can be metame the Medani. וזהו הטעם הפנימי על מה שמדעני לנזכר שום שם מזיין השם שאין מנוחק. Pashas, the reason is because the whole purpose of Medani is be able to say it before. If it wants to be shameless, kemen just sagen. But that pnimi say Inyona fakert because a yid is the fact that a yid says Medani is because he's connected to Atzmos. Atzmos is beyond shameless. The dargin of Lakus, which mitzad that a yid in every matzav. Who are you turning to when you say Medani? You're turning to the Eibishter himself. Because the connection that a Yid has towards the Giluyim, to the Maidas of the Eibishter, that taka before a Yid was Negalasa, it's like Nachnish Mizbeinu given. He wasn't Mizach himself, so it's taka not Meir by him those in Yon. So he can't say the shameless. He can't relate to the Eibishter as a Gadol. In order to relate to the Eibishter as Gadlos, you have to first be Mizbeinu. He just woke up in the morning. His mind didn't start processing yet any information. He just woke up. When a person just wakes up, the only connection that's there is his Muhus is connected to Elikus. Not connected to any tzir, any matzah, and any tnai. So v'meila, that's meibish nalin. That's meibish nalin. It's beyond shameless. Zat ma pnimi al mash meidani l'diska shem shem zayin shem shem n'chokim. Kivan sham meidani ba mitzat chinas hayichida. Etzem anasham. If it comes from his pnimi is harei aydash l'etzem anasham ila tzmuz is barat le'it vas v'shem. Forget tzmayim. Yeah. The Rebbe speaks in the order, say, why was man Hashas? Okay, listen, I wasn't reading. Let me send a bisschen weiter for you. L'chein, nemar bir zeh, b'chsidus davke.
Oh, this is their
This beer says davke in chsidus. Ki da'ad ha'chalakim pardes, mikimen shinyonim hu nefesh ruach neshama chaya shebetere, eine mevardim in a yechida, they're not mevardim this in it. The Rebbe says it's mentioned, but it's not explained. It means they don't. Those pchinas of Torah, which are Torah, the way Torah is shaychus already to a certain tzir. Nefesh, ruach, neshama, the way Lakus comes in a certain tzir, the way the Eira Torah comes to a certain tzir. So they relate to a yid, where yid's connected to that tzir. Yechid is where yid's connected to the Eibishter himself. Those pchinas in Torah don't address the Inyona the way they are mitzad ha'etzah. Asher mitzini seidim is ubezayer after chelik haset shebeteira. Asher meinu mefardet is madrege shem neshama nefesh ruach neshama. He doesn't. And it says neshama li neshama. B'chinas hayichida ein nimnes ki nechlal lesiv neshama li neshama b'chinas chay. Means that all a lakus or neshama the way neshama is connected to a certain seer, not the etzem mamish. And the mele, so they don't address this inyan of Medani. How it reflects the yichidus shebenefesh. How it reflects the aspect of the yid that nothing could be metame. Because they don't that inyan as sedah keshet lakus, which nothing could be mastered on it. That there's a keshet lakus that's not defined, that's unlimited, nothing can be metame. That inyan wasn't as gal in other chelkei Torah. Or lakus comes by agvala, but maybe like its connection to lakus the way it is connected to a certain seer, to a certain agvala. They don't think this Medani is he thanking Hashem in the morning. Chitzain is to get things more. Not the Indian pnimi that a yid's Heida, a Yid's connection to the Eibishter is unlimited, and nothing can contaminate it. It's beyond any tzir. Al Chassidus Yichidish V'ter Mavur U'Barucha Inyona Shel HaYichid. The Rebbe adds in Arda 86, Mashiach B'Yitzchayim, I mean, the whole Seder Shtalshus of Kabbalah, Primis HaTorah, so you have Zayar, and then there's Kabbalah, and then there's Galus of the Arizal. The Arizal already is a Gilui, in a certain sense, already as Cholet to the Gilui of Hashem. The Rebbe says it's all Dargis and Chayah. It's all Dargis of the Pshitis of Elukus, not Atzmas. Atzmas with the Eibush is beyond any definition at all. That's Cholet HaGilui of this Inu as Chassidus. In its Chayim, or the highest Giluyim, even after the Ramak, it's all Elukus, the way Elukus is Shaykhs a certain Inyan, a certain Sir, a certain Tayar. Not the Mitzvah Ein Sof of the Eibush himself. And that's the Chiddush of Chassidus. Chiddush of the Mavur Baruch Inyona Shel HaYichid. So that's his Ein Zach. So here the Rebbe explained how Chassidus explains Yechidah, the way Yechidah relates to the Pnimis of a Yid, and to the Yid's connection to the Eibush himself, the Atmos of Elukus. Now the Rebbe is Meis, Kiv, and Yechidah, B'chinas Etzem, Anasham, Shimon, and Nimshach, Zad, B'chinas Evesh, Neshama Chaya. Since Yechidah is the Etzem is where everything stems from the Etzem. So Harei Abir Shevchsidis, which is Mavar, then Koda Atzos and Meidani Abam Knesei Chidim, Chayo Maver Gam as Dal Bir Manal. So the Rebbe says Abir. You have, let's say Meidani, the way it's explained in Chelik Hadrush, that a person should be loyal. Does that change or give any chayis or any clarkite in the Bir al Pshat? The Bir al Pshat is that a person woke up in the morning, you have to thank the Eibush to their life. That's one aspect. And then in Chelik Hadrush, where there's negay a person's musr, a person's morals or ethics, the Dart and learned that a person has to be loyal when someone gives him something. The same way the Eibush is loyal. That's not going to change his akaras hatayv. It's two separate levels. The Bir al Pidrush doesn't address the Inyan the way it is al Pshat. It's not chavar. Or the Remes of Tchias HaMeisim. It addresses the Chelik al Pshat. Mashiach in Chassidus, which brings out that Meida'ani reflects the Yechidah. So once Chassidus was Mavar, Meida'ani reflects the Yechidah, it's not just... so now another way of looking at Meida'ani. Meida'ani, the way it brings out that a Yid, even before Nitzos Adam, is connected to the Eibush. That's what Chassidus is making. I mean, it's a very broad idea that there's an aspect of a Yid that no Tumah can be Meida'ani. Zeh Rashi Nezah. What's Hab Satana, is that going to change the Meida'ani in the basic Pshat of Meida'ani? So the Rebbe says here, since the Chassidus is Mavar Meida'ani, the way Meida'ani is connected to Yechidah, so that once you see a Meida'ani, an expression of Yechidah, is Mavar in a Yechidah which is expressed in Meida'ani, that gives a new Havana and all the other Da'at Halak. Let's get that in Mavar. I mean, in the Hemshech HaDvarim, the Rebbe explains more, that Gosha, the Lashon of the Sif is more, how once the Yechidah of Yid is Begilui, but Mele, it gives a Chayes and all other things that he does. But the Rebbe is saying more than that. Once Chassidus is brought out, how Meida'ani relates to Yechidah, once you see Meida'ani, the way it relates from Yechidah, so it gives a new Havana in all four Pshatim. Because inside the area of Yechidah, everything is different. We're not dealing now with the Yechidah of Yid. We're saying Meida'ani is an expression of Yechidah, according to the Bira, previously known. Once Meida'ani is a pure understanding of Yechidah, we're going to see how that reflects, and Meida'ani is saying thank you that he's alive and all the other problems. So which what's Chassidus Mavar? Then the Kodatzos of Meida'ani about Yechidah. So it's not Shel of the other Pirushim. It's not. Now where the Meida'ani brings out a Yid the way Notum can be Metame. What does that have to do with saying thank you for the fact that he's alive? But Chassidus is Bir Mechayo Maver Gam Dal Bir Manal Shepart Satei Mevardim Sapratim to Meida'ani. Kedulala. Again a bit weiter, yeah. Chayis Chassidus Nachnis v'Chelik Pshat Shel Meida'ani. Remember here is the Chayis was Chassidus like today. Certain Biur of his Madgish more the Biur of Chassidus brings in a clarket in the Pirush itself. But here is the Chayis of Chassidus being trying to Chelik Pshat Shel Meida'ani. What's the Pshat of Meida'ani? Shahayidoi. So what a person is thanking the Eibush for the fact that he woke up in the morning. So the Shahayidoi Asher Zarta B'Nishmasi Meida'ani L'Fanecha Asher Zarta B'Nishmasi. So what's Chayis of Chassidus being trying? The Rebbe is not saying Mistama also on that, but Nish does Retet. The Chassidus brings in a Chayis in the concept of Akara Satay, of saying thank you. Nish does Retet. The Chayis was Chassidus bring to Rein and Meida'ani in Chelik HaPshat is Had Goshe v'Pirush Nishmasi Neshama Shali. You say, person wakes up in the morning, he thanks the Eibush that he's alive. The Rebbe says, the biggest Ana in life is the fact that he's alive. So you think, Meida'ani L'Fanecha Asher Zarta Bi my life, my neshama. What do you mean when you say my life? Did he give me back Reuven's life, Shimon's life? What's that Goshen Nishmas? He gave me back my neshama. and not that he gave back my friends neshama. What's the adgashi? A person should say, you say better praise. You thank the Eibishter for making this hanad the gezach. What's the you made my food? What's the my life? You gave back life. You gave a person life in the morning. What's that adgashi neshmasi? So the Rebbe touches on neshmasi is that he gave me back my neshama. Sha'idaya zahzaras neshmasi yehudi. Ilu hayu machzirim le neshama. Aval acheres a goyish neshama, a goyish life. Af shegam oz yetzim achlal echem shishim evisa l'chaim. A person will wake up in the morning with a goyish levin, but nicht gedankt. He wouldn't thank the Eibishter with such a life. This nekuda is dafke mitzad yichid. The Rebbe says very stark gezacher. The Rebbe says this is nicht geposhte inim, but the Rebbe says that mitzad nefesh ruach neshama chaya. Say there's tamas animals alive or guy is alive. He eats, he drinks, he reads, whatever the guy's life is about. He feels complete. And he feels fulfilled with he has his dal damis. And then there's a yid's life. A yid's life is connected to the Eibishter. Dveikus telukus. So the shaila is mitzad the darg of nevesh ruach neshama chaya. Even though the darg is nicht as push, it's darg is telukus. But the God mitzad the darg of nevesh ruach neshama chaya, life itself has value. Even if living life as a yid is shalei be'er higher than living life than a guy. But saf kol saf, to say that living life stamaze, elam hazadek life is garnished, das kann man sagen, mitzad nefesh ruach neshama chaya. Mashayim mit davke mitzad chinas yichida. So there's this mitzad yichida. You have this hergish that if it's not a lukus, it doesn't exist. It's nothing. It's kein zach nicht. Before the Rebbe explains the Indian, the Rebbe explains Pashat the Mitzvahs. I was saying that before there was the Gila Yechida, before the Gila HaChassidus, before there was the Gila Yechida Ba'ayid, so Avada, a Yid is Hashem Mativ Chalkenu, you thank the Eibishter that he's a Yid, Bacha Bana Mikol Ha'amim, we get mitzvahs. But the living life as a goy had value. The hakara that what's life is living as a Yid, and not living as a Yid has no value at all. Ayin ve'efes. That's dafke mitzad is galsa chassidus.
Even though you can have six nefesh from chaya.
You can have serious nefesh, but he's ready to give away his life for the Eibishter. But life without a lukus has some value. Inside the darga of nefesh ruach neshama chaya. Because I'm verstehen, it's nicht as a pasha. Let's see what the Rebbe says. So the first Rebbe says the gufeini. Ki mitzad ha'oras ha'ichida nirgash etzlei shechayim him chayim yehudiyim dafke. So we're not saying Yechida itself is a Yid's ein zach with neighbors. It's not about living. If they're saying now we're dealing with the world of Pshat. The world of Pshat is a person just woke up in the morning, he's happy that he's alive. We're not dealing now with thanking the Eibishter for the fact that we're a Yid. That's not what the Rebbe is saying. But the Ani the Eibishter, a person is thanking the Eibishter that he's awake, that he's alive. So he's thanking the Eibishter that you're alive, that you're awake. Was darfst du reinhaken as Chava Neshama? Because by Yid is by em life Kuntres Yechida, Yid that learns Chassidus, by em is Meir Yechida. Life is only worthwhile if he's a Yid. Life of a guy is keledimish. Not, you say, there's other brachas we say in davening to thank the Eibishter for Torah mitzvahs. That's a Yid says, Shlei Sani Goy is thanking the Eibishter for giving us Torah mitzvahs, or Shlei Sani Ovid. Here that I'm saying, you're thanking the Eibishter for the fact that you're alive. But mitzad the fact that Ben is Meir Yechida, so life is only a mitzvahs if it's life connected to Torah mitzvahs. Stamaz 11 is ken lebenish. Now, you wouldn't say thank you. So it's the way Chassidus is Meir Yechida. We're talking about a person living a regular life, and he's happy that he's alive and he's breathing. And so it's but Yechida is Meir in Azah Eifen, that it's nirgash there, that life is only worthwhile thanking about and living if it's a Yiddish life. Anishid is garnished. Let's see what the Rebbe says. It says, Ki mitzad ha'oras ha'yechida, nirgash esle, shechayim him chayim Yehudim daf. Chayis shel Adam asher ruach b'nei Adam ha'ele hilama. Means a Yid, a chayis of an Adam Adam ha'ele, that means, what says the Yiddish 11? A chayis, which its mode is to connect to the Eibishter. And so, durchführen was man darf tun. Da bescheiches der Lukus. Chayim, sorim, b'fnei atzmam, be'erke einem chayim, it's not considered life. It means there's reality. He's living in a world that there's people that he's goyim wake up. Chaim Sar doesn't necessarily mean say someone that's sitting and eating and drinking the whole day. Chaim Sar a regular gashmistic life. Person lives and he wants to feel he should be successful, he should be big, or whatever what people strive for. So Chaim Sar Chayish Shel Behema Amad Ema Lechamer Nikr Chamer Asher Ruach HaBehema Yired Silamata. It's about all being mashed in his own mitzias. Azal leben heistisch geleben, be'erke einem Chaim. Wohu ein li lehedes hazeh. Mashegim is at nefesh ruach neshama chaya, Chaim sorim, is a Metzias Eichet. It's also a form of life. It's not Shalei be'erech lower, it's much lower than the form of life of a Yid. The Rebbe's Hadgosh over here is that the Chassidus gives the hergish that Chaim Sarim, Stam as living as a human being, and being happy and married, that's be'erech of a Yid, it's not Chaim. V'hu ein lo Hedis Hazeh. It says, V'af shekam Chaim Sarim tzis chshuva b'yeser, b'frat shel min ha-medaber. They were saying not only someone that sees his whole life is eating and drinking all day. So I mean, a medaber person has art, chveis, music, other stuff. I don't know what people, what their life is about. But Alpha became has nothing to do with the Eibishter. Stam azeh metzias, elam hazer, or Welt. The mitzad yechide Welt is garnished. Harikol yisol b'nei melachim. The Rebbe is mamchish more the hergish of a yid. Before the Rebbe speaks the concept. Harikol yisol b'nei melachim. V'amustik shel Chaim esel ben melech who is kashusim aviv hamelech. Be'im yitnu lechaim avli yinatko esim aviv hamelech v'echnisu lerefes lechadich es chai behema harilei levat shel yisanu v'chai zel la'adra b'yimoes v'yokes b'chai. I just want to bring what the Rebbe is trying to say over here. You could have someone, the Rebbe is saying, what's the musig of Chaim Etzel Ben Melech? I'm saying is you have a Pashta Eifin, you could have a much lower Eifin. You have someone that is a regular person. The Rebbe says here, let's say not a Ben Melech. A regular person, you're going to put him into a refes to live the life of a cow. He's not going to want. Why is he not going to want? Because it's painful. Live with it. You say, a person makes a cheshvan that the tsar that he's going to have from living such a life overrides the anah of living. So he's going to give away the smell, having the bad smell, that ganze leben and to live between the cows. So the tsar is shalei lefi erech the anah that he's going to have, or the tsar is going to override the anah that he's going to have. Here's the Rebbe saying a different word. That's different. That's in the Kud is life is even living in a barn is life. So hakal the tsar that's there and the agony that he's going to have overrides the good aspect that's there. So if the tsar overrides the good thing that's there, is someone that is say mayis b'chayim. Why is he mayis b'chayim? Not that life is garnished. He has so much tsar v'yisurin that it's not worth it for him the life that he's having. Sometimes the negative overrides the positive. Here the Rebbe is saying a ben melech living in a refes bakar. The reason why he's going to be Shvel Levin is because mitzad his darga. What does life mean? Life means being connected to his father, being connected to Aviv HaMelech. You take him away from Aviv HaMelech, legabi em heisus ishkalab. That's what the Rebbe is saying. See, someone that not that he doesn't want to live because he's living in a barn. The reason why he doesn't want to live in a barn is because there's so much the pain overrides the hana of being alive. So heisus ishkalab b'chol. Living in a barn, legabi his musig of life is being connected to his father. Not being connected to his father, it's not considered life at all. That's what that Gosha the Rebbe is saying. Mitzad never shochin Hashem achayv. The first eifin that a person the ma'is b'chayav, because a person even mitzad b'chinas never shochin Hashem achayv. You can have a yid a great tzaddik that them is mit Mair given b'chinas Hashem is his bonus and godless Hashem, and he understands that the Eibusher is the only the only good thing, the only precious thing. So if you can take him away from the Eibusher, the tsar of not being able to make mitzvahs and the tsar of being nifus from Elokus is going to override the pleasure of being alive or the value of being alive. But being alive is a value even without connection to the Eibusher. The Poyel, he's not going to want to live it because the tsar from Piruth from Elokus is going to override that Nekud. The Chassidus gives the hergish that life without Elokus is not a mitzias of life. A Yid's hergish is that stamazeh to live does hasten to live. That's not a mitzias. What's a mitzias of life? His kashas la'ov of Amelech. His kashas Elokus. As a hergish can notice that mitzad yichidish b'nefesh.
Why does everything put in the front of Rafis Bakr? Like it's if you separate from the king and went to live in his own house, you'd have the same thing.
What's the pshat separated from the king? But separated means that he doesn't see his father. He's separated from that concept of life. If he's living a human life and he's a miyakir the king and he can still appreciate it, he's still be able to be under the hashpah of the king. That's considered the nituk. The Rafis Bakr is that's nituk from his father. You're not kohes. I mean, that's the. The beginning of the story. I think it's in bigger Chicago also, but I think the Alter Rebbe first gave him a bracha for HaChassidus. He told Alter Rebbe that he's not interested in this. What's the lashon? He told Alter Rebbe that he doesn't. He's involved. He didn't want it, and but the Rebbe doesn't bring it over here. But then the Alter Rebbe gave him a bracha for Arichas Yamim. He told the Rebbe, "But not with Peir Shiur." Was in Yaim lem v'liyiros naim v'lishmo mezet nit ken getlichkeit und hertig getlichkeit. Chura tomua shneis matana la'ad and fat matana gdeila arichas yamin. Har de ein magam sheyemer shenen reitze velak mit nash matana tig gdeila idese. The Rebbe is saying, life is a valuable thing. A person living, life is a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah shuva b'yosef. So he said, Al Rebbe is ready to give him a matana for Erechus Yomim. So he says, no, I want to have something more. I want to see and hear get that. Someone's giving you a matana, so you say, thank you what you got. You don't demand more. Life is a valuable thing. The tightest is life itself. The Toras says, by him, life was as a leben haze is connected to the Eibishter. Life without being connected to the Eibishter is kelebenish. Sharich zam tim tzir shal yimei chayim. Ka yimunach abgelik es lebe pashtus shkol metzias achayes or riyas or shmiyas olukus. Yeah, I'm saying yimunach es lebe pashtus. Not that he was misbein in Gadlus Hashem, and he said this bonus. It came to the recognition. If it's his bonus, then you're not going. Then it's going to have value. Mitzat seichel, so lukus is much more precious than life, but life has value. HaChassidus gives the hanacha. That's the reason why we said the chiddush of nefesh. That mitzias achayis is dafka yisrael. L'chein hisna b'ritin perish Shiurim ki yom v'shanim she'in reim v'shem lukus lo hei nechshavim esle l'mitzias klal. V'ad rabbe moaz b'yom v'shanim keiv. So Rebbe says here b'herger zeh bom misad gila yichid da. Mitzad da b'chein sefer shchon neshama chaya. Mikivan shemetzuyorim him be'ezet tziyur meichen midas chulu. Hare yesh ben inyan la'atzma. V'inyan holokus shebehem hu k'mei eidavar. B'meile yesh ben eze yachas and the asmakim bedakas the dakas takapanim l'chaim b'lish shemei v'rei holokus. You heard what the Rebbe sagt? Ich can push this out. What's the Rebbe saying it? The Rebbe is saying that you have to remember that never shochem neshama chai. Let's say the Rebbe brings your meichen amidus. It's not the pshad that the Torah says. It's not the pshad that a person has keiches haseichel. You have meichen amidus, which are neutral keiches. The nefesh elokis uses the mayach to understand the elokos, and the Hamas uses the mayach to tachbulis and the lamaz. The nefesh elokis has a separate set of keiches. There's meichen amidus, which in Yonim is keiches in order to connect to the Eibishter. So the Rebbe is saying it's not the if there was seichel was a neutral mitzias. So then we understand that seichel is a mitzias. So a yid could use a seichel for avanas hatayr. A yid, but if his whole connection is based on seichel, and seichel is not a tool for kedusha. It's not a seichel eliki. It's a mitzias of seichel. So then stam as a intelligence, academia is going to have a tizas makamei. It's a mitzias. What's his whole mitzias? Havana v'asaging in a lukus. So havana v'asag is a mitzias. Havana v'asag is a mitzias. So even without a lukus, so havana v'asag is a mitzias also. So the Rebbe doesn't say. The Rebbe says over here that legabi nefesh shochem neshama chaya. Inyan lukus shem hu k'may eidav. The Rebbe is saying that we're dealing with meichen umidis, which in meichen of the neshama kol inyanam is seichel for the. It's a seichel eliki. Keich haseichel, which kol inyona is to connect to the Eibishter through seichel. Not the heritage say yid grace yidam some gelernt. It's not the pshat that there's a chshivus of seichel. There's a mile of understanding. What's the topic that is being munachin isn't Torah. The whole mitzvah of seichel was a heichatimtzit to be misachad with the Eibishter. A heichatimtzit of a shaychus alukos. So b'meile stam as a seichel that's legabi the nefesh elokis, even the keich haseichel the nefesh elokis stam as a seichel is garnished. That's not its mitzvah. But they're saying bedakos it's eidav because what's the kesher of the pchin of neshama alukos? The fact that he's made in umasrik dulas Hashem. Or what's the mile of a yid's yichud with the Eibishter through learning Torah? That he's misyached, he understands chachmas Hashem. If understanding is nothing, if seichel is garnished, so what's the pshat that his inyan is? His kasha is through seichel. His inyan is taking connection to lakus through seichel. But if if seichel in itself, if there's no concept of seichel, there's no concept of understanding. So what's his inyan? See, even though the whole midhos of the keich haseichel, the nefesh elokis is that it's a form of connection to the Eibishter. But what's the form of connection? The form of connection is through understanding. If understanding has no value at all, so what's the pshat that it's in is connected to the Eibishter through understanding? So the darg of nefesh neshama chaya, where it's a yid connecting to the Eibishter through a certain seer, saf kol saf, it's going to give us an asmagam to a seer which does not have this pnimius of connection to lukus for the seer itself. You hear the word that the Rebbe is saying it. What I'm saying is you have one eifil that there's a mitzvah. Cheseichel is a mitzvah. The question is, what are you going to do with the seichel? You're going to learn Chassidus with the seichel, or you're going to learn Inyona Elam Hazeh. But what are you miyaker when a person is learning? Why is he miyaker understanding the Eibush? Because he's miyaker the connection through the method of understanding. So if seichel has value, so avada seichel in stamaze Inyona elam has is also going to have value. The gavi the neshama seichel has no value at all. The Indian is the reality is connecting to the Eibishter, but there is a certain mile without the concept of alakus. There's no chshivas at all. The chshivas is the Eibishter, but there's a certain what's the pshat keiach seichel of the neshama? What's the pshat neshama? There's a certain mile in this form of connection. There's a mile that keshet alakus is expressed in the form of understanding. If there was no mile at all that the keshet alakus should be expressed in the form of understanding, so then what's the pshat? So it's nicht da Sache von seichel. What's the pshat is darg of neshama? Means alakus is the only mitzvah, but because alakus is tachas hashleimus, so the connection to alakus has the mile of relation in a form of seichel. That means that there is a certain tfisa smakin. Seichel is an Inyan. If seichel is not an Inyan, so then it's garnish. Here, not that seichel is an Inyan. I'm saying is by the seichel meichan of the nefesh lakis. It's not that the chshivas is seichel and he's using a seichel for Torah. The chshivas is a lakus, but the fact that because that his connection to lakus is nisbata in a form of seichel means that there's a mile to be connected in such a form. I'm saying you give us a pashta zach. Some of him has the anache that the only chshivas is so mainly has to be in the best way, let's say. So therefore he has to give a nice speech. If the musik of giving a nice speech is garnished, so what's the pshat that being megal al-kus has to come into a form of bringing it out in a neum yafe? You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is the fact that seichel there is a kesher to a yid's connection to the api pashtus. Why is there essence for this? Because there's a certain shleimus in the fact that a yid's connection to the Eibishter is expressed in the form of understanding alakus. If understanding has no value at all, so what's the mile of connection to alakus being in the form of seichel? But the base of the Rebbe is not saying that the base of chilik and neshama of nefesh alakus is seichel. It's not that the chshivas is seichel and we're using it for the Eibishter. The reality is alakus. And the Indian of the neshama is connection to the Eibishter. But why is he connecting to the Eibishter through a form of seichel? Because there's a certain mile to connect to the Eibishter such a yif. If there's a certain mile, it means that you give a tfisa smakim to the mitzvahs of seichel. Catches on seichel is garnished. And if you give any tfisa smakim to the mitzvahs of seichel, but derech seder shtashalus, or you're giving it in a smakim, it says the darkos akopanim to seichel without alakus. To give a good hamchasha for this, I'm not reading out a good hamchasha for this.
Even though in the world of the seichel itself, nothing seichel.
And the neshama in Inyona is connecting to the Eibishter, but in the darg of keiches seichel of the neshama, why is he using the keli of seichel to connect to the Eibishter? For him, it's all a way to connect to the Eibishter. Reality by him is connection to the Eibishter. But why are you connecting to the course through understanding? Because understanding is something which is going to complement the connection. You're using it as a complement to mahus. That's true. And without this mahus to garnished. It means the whole chshivas of seichel is a keli in order for the neshama to connect to the Eibishter. Not that this itself is a value. I'm saying it is in Welt. You have what's the chshivas of seichel? Academia itself is a mind. A yid is not learning because he wants the chshivas of seichel. Which topic is he being using a seichel is no lukus. The reality is connection to lukus. That's the Indian. But why? But Lepoil, one of the things which complements connection to lukus, or one of the ways that you express your connection, is through a form of understanding. So why are you using a form of understanding to connect to the Eibishter? Because it complements the connection somehow. So seichel hatten sich a gewisse chshivas. Not a chshivas that your life is not about seichel. Life is about connection to alakus. But the fact that the kesher to alakus comes in the tzir of seichel means that seichel has some type of tfisa smakim. If that's the anoche, it's a sof kol sof, seichel is an Indian. Seichel is an Indian, so the dakos, that could be in a sinas smakim that a person should idealize seichel itself. Or be mavdal seichel from alakus. The Rebbe says, what's the lashon before? Mekivan shem Shiurim in beis tzir, hari yesh b'm Inyan la'atzmam, v'Inyan alakus shem hu kamay eidav. Means since the keshet alakus of Meichin, it's not stam. There's only the Eibishter. There's the Eibishter, the way you relate to him through understanding him. So understanding is only a levush to the connection, but it's a levush, and the levush is an Inyan. If seichel is garnished, so if seichel has no value at all, so what's the pshat that you're connecting with him through this form?
And HaChassidus, there's no value to the connection.
There's only the Eibishter himself. There's no value at all. Va'azeh de kavanah, something else. This is what the Eibishter wants. Not that there's a value to it's not that there's a value that a Lakush should have the decoration of Seichel. Seichel has no value at all. The Eibishter is ein arech lecha. Nothing exists besides for him himself. He wanted we should use Seichel. That's something else. So there's a kavanah. Not that Seichel has a certain ilui. Not that Seichel is a tool that could be used to enhance the connection. Saying beside the lower dargas, Seichel as a tool has value. If Seichel as a tool has value, so there's something, not only the Eibishter himself, there's a concept that has value. If it has value, but dakas the dakas, this levush, without having a malubish, will have value also. So ein bashul is in das Wagen, bashul in soll is bar. It's gonna interact with them. I don't know if it's coming out clear what I'm saying. It's gonna interact with them. Huh? I'm saying is the myelin seichel is that it's a form of expressing connection to the Eibishter. Not that seichel itself is meaning. I'm saying is what's the mile of levushim? See, there's no mile of levush if there's no person. It's not. What's the mile of a coat? If it's going to take away a person from coat, there's a mile in a coat itself. There's no mile in a coat itself. But there's a person there, so he could use the coat for his benefit. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, the idea of detachment from coat is an idea. A coat has some type of value. So in such a case, the dakos, you have other things that have value besides the human being himself. If you're saying that this object could complement, that means that there's a reality outside of the person himself. So, the dakos, you're giving this in a smakin to achshivus of a coat outside of it.
Is that wrong?
Huh?
Is that wrong?
That's what I'm saying. Chassidus gives the hergesh that
Mitzad Yechida or the Chol?
no, mitzad the primis. That emes can sich nor herren mitzad the etzem. Once the etzem is the primis, the etzem is the zgalis, so it's ered levado.
So I'm told that there is
The Chassidus was starting to megala the primis haneshama. Inside the primis haneshama, yet as a hergesh that the only thing that exists is the Eibishter himself. Nothing else besides him exists. He doesn't need a coat, and there's nothing that could complement him. Maybe the coat is an example. I think we should think for the Indian. But the Hochshiv is the levush. It's not the Hochshiv itself. But you're machshiv something outside of him. That's what I was saying. At the end of the day, you're giving some in Chashivas outside of the person himself. But that could be a makir that sof kol sof, you're giving us in a smakim to mitzias, nothing to do with the Eibishter. Yeah, it's the Rebbe saying it back as the Geisias, but we can as gefinnen, this is I don't want to use the word, it's a real thing. It's a real Indian.